Hello and welcome back. Now that you're here, we can begin the discussion. This time we'll be going over the feats and abilities of the world-famous 16th century mythological figure, Sun Wukong. Due to his recent spike in popularity surrounding Black Myth Wukong, now is the perfect time to discuss the source material and help the stone monkey gain the recognition he deserves. The scope of this video will be mainly limited to the Monkey King himself and not the greater cosmology of the Journey to the West universe. If you'd like me to go into detail on that, let me know in the comments, but without further delay, let's get right into it. Ironically, the most famous character from Journey to the West isn't very popular here in the West. So many of you might be asking who Sun Wukong even is. And the most simple and easy way to describe him would be to imagine Goku with shadow clones made of hair, shapeshifting on par with Greek gods, and a penchant for battling gods that could give Kratos a run for his money. A more serious answer would be that Wukong is initially a highly rebellious mystical stone monkey who lacks discipline and focus, that challenges the authority of heaven and the Buddhas themselves. To this end, he trains an entire army of normal monkeys to be skilled enough in the usage of all forms of weaponry that they were able to match the celestial guard of heaven for an entire day. On his path to become the self-proclaimed great sage equal to heaven, Wukong studied and mastered the Taoist ways of immortality, and through this process Wukong was granted his most noteworthy abilities, namely the 72 earthly transformations, which grant him the ability to control the form of his body in many mythic ways, including becoming ethereal, growing in size to fill the volume of his entire cosmology that's heavily implied to be an infinite spacetime, shrink to the size of a strand of hair, and also literally take on at least 72 additional forms that each grant Wukong an additional life. Other abilities granted by these teachings, which Wukong actually learned in a dream, include immortality and the ability to somersault 108,000 Chinese miles, also known as Li, which is commonly used as a synonym for an infinitely large number, but it does have a confirmed length of about 54,000 kilometers. So I'll let you decide if the author was being hyperbolic or precise with this. Speaking of immortality and 72 additional lives, Wukong is heavily regarded to be indestructible in a literal sense. Whereas many characters like the majority of Superman's iterations are claimed to have invincibility, but yet are still capable of being consistently harmed, Wukong is much more accurately depicted as someone similar to Archie Supersonic, who can literally only be harmed by those who have invincibility negation. Sun Wukong has achieved this through the Taoist way of realized immortality, and also through consuming the immortal peaches, celestial wine, and the golden elixir of Laozi, in addition to the 72 extra lives and the ability to willingly reincarnate through any available pregnant vessel, including other types of animals such as a pig. Finally, to top off the long list of Wukong's aversions to death, he also has personally struck his name from the records of hell themselves, effectively freeing himself from the jurisdiction of death, not to mention his ability to regenerate from disembowelment, decapitation, and other fatal wounds. These many different methods of immortality have coalesced and refined themselves throughout his body over time to make him particularly impossible to kill. After he humiliated heaven in battle for an entire day straight, he was eventually ensnared, and even while he was defenseless, no weapon the Demon Kings or 28 constellations were able to use could harm him, including magic or divine attacks such as thunderbolts and fire. Eventually, the forces of heaven decided to render the divine foods that Wukong ate from his body by trapping him in Laozi's brazier of 8 trigrams, designed to kill gods, and they continuously smelted him for 49 days straight. And to quote Wukong himself, he didn't have a scratch on his head. In fact, as a testament to his durability and stamina, he immediately broke free when they tried to check on him and continued to battle all of heaven at once yet again. The process of cooking him for so long also had a profound and unexpected effect on his eyes, causing them to become fiery red with diamond pupils, which granted him the power to see dualities. Immediately upon viewing someone, he can tell if they are poor or rich, true or false, good or evil, etc. Essentially, this entire event is the perfect encapsulation of his stamina and absolute immortality all in one. But now you may be thinking, how tough or strong is he without all these magic abilities and divine powers? And I'd like to immediately set the record straight by saying that he didn't inspire Son Goku for no reason. Wukong is an absolute powerhouse. As I previously mentioned, even the 28 living constellations were unable to beat him in battle, while assisted by all of heaven. Or in other words, While alone in base form, he was able to defeat the entire army of heaven, including at least a dozen gods, 28 constellations, all of the star spirits of heaven, and 100,000 celestial soldiers, among others, who would be far too exhausting to list here. This battle shook the heavens and earth, scaring gods and demons alike. By directly besting the living 28 constellations, that alone would place him at least multi-solar system level, which is consistent with a heavily weakened version of Wukong, who is said by the omniscient Buddha to be capable of moving the planets and stars, which is further supported by his weapon's ability to hold up the Milky Way galaxy. Wukong also casually blitzes around at the speed of a meteor while he carries mountains over his shoulders, and claims to be able to drag the moon down from the heavens with his bare hands. These feats establish a firm baseline for what you can expect from Wukong's base form, attack potency, and lifting strength. Now I'll give you some evidence to consider what his max power would be in his pre-Buddha ceiling version. For the sake of his Taoist mentor, Wukong found himself at odds with the Yellow Wind Demon, who was capable of evenly matching Wukong for over 30 rounds of combat before Wukong used his special ability to transform any of his 84,000 strands of hair into duplicates of himself. Using this numbers advantage, he briefly overwhelmed the Yellow Wind Demon, who was forced to use their own trump card ability. The demon was able to blow cosmic amounts of spiritual samadhi wind that was stated to change heaven and earth, as hell was nearly destroyed outright and all the stars of the heavens above grew faint and obscure. Even the sun became dim as the entire cosmology became one mighty trembling mass that, quote, almost split apart. This cosmic spiritual wind that threatened to break the cosmos apart not only failed to damage Wukong, but even his clones were all intact, albeit tossed around and unable to fight. He then collects his clones and assimilates them back into his body as he rushes the Yellow Wind Demon to finish the battle. And he immediately takes the full brunt of the next wind attack to the face. And Wukong is only unable to continue fighting because his eyes became uncontrollably watery from the attack, which is incredibly impressive when you consider that this universe-shattering attack threatened to reach and destroy heaven and hell, which, much like the Dragon Ball cosmology, are each their own separate universal spacetimes relative to where the battle was taking place. But also the attack was fully capable of destroying the infinite number of additional pocket dimensions within those three realms that all hold infinite mass individually. The exact specifics of the infinite pocket realms and Buddha realms are beyond the scope of this video, but it is currently understood that this wind attack is low complex multiverse level, or fifth dimensional, for being able to affect an uncountably infinite number of universes, as it directly threatened to split apart the entire verse's cosmology, which includes potentially infinite realms. The grand scope of Wukong's power become evident when even an attack of this scale failed to deal any lasting damage to him while he was still in his regular state. Keep in mind that this is consistent with Wukong's ability to grow in size to match the entire cosmos, including heaven, hell, and the aforementioned pocket worlds. His weapon can also grow to similar sizes. This version of Wukong's power ceiling is firmly established at 5th dimensional, although it must be kept in mind that almost every feat we've discussed so far is only describing Wukong from the first 7 of the 100 original chapters of Journey to the West. And although he does get temporarily weakened from being sealed for 500 years by the Buddha, these feats are not even close to the level Wukong achieves by the end of the story. But before we discuss Wukong's strongest version, I'd like to establish his speed and intelligence scalings. Sun Wukong's speed doesn't disappoint, as he was able to jump from the Buddha's hand to the end of the heavens and back in mere moments, which has been calculated to be nearly 100 quadrillion times the speed of light. Although it is possible that Wukong has infinite travel speed, due to his ability to reach other infinite space-times, such as heaven and hell via raw movement. Even after being sealed for hundreds of years and heavily weakened, he is still calculated to be more than 1 quadrillion times the speed of light, using similar logic based on his ability to reach the underworld. These feats are consistent with Wukong's ability to rush and attack the Yellow Wind Demon while he was still blowing his cosmic winds that almost instantly caused catastrophic effects across the entire cosmos. Finally, Wukong is much more intelligent than one might expect, considering the army of shonen blockheads that he has inspired. Wukong has showcased impressive knowledge and application of medicine as a physician, medicine. He is able to effectively treat both sick and injured patients alike. Wukong also has a comprehensive knowledge of the inner workings and bureaucracy of the heavens themselves, which are incredibly complex. Wukong is also known for his comprehensive nature throughout the Journey to the West verse. While still very young, Wukong surpassed the Taoist immortals, who were thousands of years his senior, all within a matter of years when studying the Taoist way of immortality. Likewise, he was able to learn the infinitely more complex Buddhist Great Way in just one journey spanning 16 years, which typically takes thousands or millions of years to learn for other immortals. Wukong is also able to outsmart and trick demons and gods who have lived for millions of years in and out of combat scenarios. Speaking of combat, much like Goku, Wukong is a battle savant and has a mastery of every type of martial art and can wield and master any weapon regardless of shape, size, or weight. He was able to train his monkey army to be masters of all weaponry in such a short amount of time, and perhaps his most impressive feat was being able to match an exact clone of himself in battle, who is stated by the Buddha to be nigh omniscient and had a comprehension of the past and future, essentially meaning that much like Goku was able to do against Hit, Wukong was able to think ahead and predict the fight so effectively that he cancelled out the advantage of his opponent's precognition despite the two fighters sharing otherwise equal stats. I am now going to place a spoiler warning for this novel character from roughly 500 years ago. If you are currently invested in Wukong's development and journey, this is your chance to avoid major spoilers. And while I'm waiting for you to leave, I'd highly recommend you all check out Red from Overly Sarcastic Productions. She is amazingly talented and entertaining, and she has made about a dozen videos recapping Journey to the West, and trust me, the videos are addictingly high quality. Anyways, I'm going to proceed now. You've been warned. Wukong actually becomes the 31st of the 35 Confession Buddhas, known as the Buddha victorious in strife. This means that he then becomes one with all the abilities associated with Buddha physiology. Some of these include additional types of immortality, being one with all things, becoming incorruptible, omniscient, omnipresent, and a large number of new reality warping abilities. Chief among these abilities is the state of being transdual, which essentially means that using the logic of yin and yang, Wukong reaches a higher logical level than those who are bound by dualities, such as strong and weak, or good and bad, or even fake and real. Effectively, all attacks and abilities below this level of logic are meaningless to Wukong due to his Buddha physiology. Even this Buddha version of Wukong is only an avatar of the Dharmakaya, which exists in Nirvana and is essentially the collective mind of all Buddhas, which Sun Wukong has become one with. The Dharmakaya is transcendent and exists far above even beings like Wukong's original form, scaling to at least 10th dimensional and taking the transdual nature of the Buddhas a step higher, achieving what is known as logical plurality, meaning that it is logically unbound by the duality of yin and yang, the superior logical non-duality of the transcendent monks, and even the Buddhas who act outside of duality, essentially meaning that Wukong's strongest form cannot be properly described by any scale of a state and its opposite. For example, you could say that he's not strong, yet he's also not weak. He's also not strong and weak, or both, or neither, and so on. This all culminates in him being several layers of logical reality above the vast majority of fiction. In conclusion, the Monkey King Wukong is heavily underrated only due to relative obscurity, and hopefully videos like this can help to pay homage and raise awareness for one of the greatest and most influential stories ever told, that managed to inspire thousands of accomplished authors like Akira Toriyama, who inspired this very channel. So in a strange and poetic way, it's fitting that not many know Wukong's true value, because even these videos about underappreciated characters were inspired by the great sage equal to heaven, who earned appreciation and acknowledgement throughout all of heaven and earth, along with the title, Buddha Victorious in Strife. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. With JJK ending soon, I plan on doing many more videos like this, and I hope that you'll recommend your favorite underappreciated characters in the comments. But either way, I hope you stay safe and take it easy.